Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the City of Boynton Beach Budget Workshops meeting number 3. Today is Wednesday, July 13th, 2022, and the time is now 5:42 p.m. This is the third and final meeting of the Budget Workshop series, and as always, the same rules of civility and decorum apply. We'll begin first with an invocation by Commissioner Hay, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And we'll begin with that. Let's all stand for the invocation and pledge.
Let us pray. Father, once again, we thank you for another day. We come today to conclude our fiscal year 2022-2023 proposed budget. We seek your blessings on the task that is before us. Bless our efforts with clear insight, our deliberation with wisdom, and with clarity and accuracy, and our decisions with impartiality. And we'll be so careful to give you all the honor and praise that you deserve. For it's in your Savior's name we pray. Let everyone say amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, please begin the roll call.
Mayor Penserga,
Here.
Vice Mayor Cruz,
Present.
Commissioner Hay,
I am here.
Commissioner Turkin,
Present.
Commissioner Kelly.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We're moving on to agenda approval. This is the time if there's any corrections or additions. To my knowledge, we only have one other item besides public comment, which is to discuss legal and legal expenses or related expenses. Is there anything else from my colleagues that you would like to hear? Now is the time to do that. Seeing none, we have a motion to approve the agenda as
So moved.
described. We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The agenda is amended. All right. So this brings us to our one and only item for this evening. Mr. Cirillo, our legal counsel, please take it away.
Okay, good afternoon. Mike Cirillo, the city attorney, with the city attorney's office. We don't have a PowerPoint, but I have some information just to share, an introduction. Happy to go through any questions you may have, either during my talk or afterwards. I'm here with Lynn Swanson. She's a city employee. She was the legal services administrator for the city attorney's office. She's been with the city for about 18 years. And she is the go-to person if you ever need anything in the city. She knows where to get it and how to get it. So please contact her at any time. Just a little bit of history. Our law firm is the city attorney, Gorin, Sheriff, and Ezrall. We've been the city attorneys for Boynton Beach for 30 years. And until very recently, Jim Sheriff has been a designated city attorney. And Vice Mayor Cruz, I understand there was some lapse in communication. I regret that. We attempted, as you know, and I did not know that everybody did not include the city commission, and I apologize for that you all did not get that email until it was brought to my attention and Lynn's attention, and again, I apologize for that. The firm's been in existence for about 40 years. Several of the partners have got that level of experience there. I've been with the firm since 1996, and since I started with the firm, one of the cities that I worked with has been Boynton Beach. As you know, when I explained the fire assessment, I've been involved with the fire assessment since its inception. Here in the city, I also litigated most of the cases in Broward County for Pembroke Pines, Coral Springs, North Lauderdale, Tamarack, Cooper City, all of those fire assessment cases. Kind of fell on my lap first month I was there when it started in 96, and I'm happy to continue to be able to do that work for all of our clients. Our firm does represent a lot of local governments, special districts, cities, including Boynton Beach, ranging in all different sizes. Westlake, another city in Palm Beach County, is another city that we do legal services for. There are 13 attorneys in our law firm. We have specialties ranging from general government work, like general counsel work, to commercial real estate, bankruptcy, litigation, labor, appeals. I do a lot of appeals. Before I was a attorney at the law firm, I was a judicial clerk at the 4th District Court of Appeal. in West Palm Beach. Hopefully I think that helped refine my thinking and my writing. And then we do education and charter schools. We help Pembroke Pines establish their charter school system and have been assisting them in operating it since its inception. Again, Lynn is here. She actually worked with our firm for a while, has been with the city here for 18 years. And she's been a godsend to me. You know, although I've been doing work for the city, not doing a lot of the day-to-day work, and Lynn is my go-to person. And again, I offer that up to you all if you ever need anything. Our budget is set forth on page 76 of the book, but this is a budget for our office and what is allocated. I want to go through it if I can a little bit. There is a retainer, which is 3110. That is what the city pays our law firm for all of the general legal work we do, for attending meetings, for reviewing contracts, for reviewing procurement.
3110, can you?
31, I'm sorry, it's on page 76 of the budget. It's fund, it's at 3110. It says retainer, city attorney. Okay, so that is what pays for our general legal services. You all see those bills, as you know, when you see the agendas once a month, and you can get a breakdown of how many hours we do spend doing work for the city under that file. And it's ranged from about 100, last month was about 124 hours. There's been months as high as 200 hours on that. For just general legal services, because it's all when you hear from Quentin, or you hear from Shauna, or you hear from Sean doing anything like that, unless it's one of the other general specialties, it's going to fall under our retainer. So that's the first one that you see there. 3111 is the litigation budget for our office for non-risk. So there's a separate, which I'll go through, and I'm sure Mara can help, and Lynn, whatnot, if you have any specific questions. But a lot of the legal fees that the city incurs are in other budgets or other places, and I'm happy to explain that to you all as well. But this litigation covers non-risk litigation where the city is sued or threatened to be sued, and it can be contract disputes, it can be appeals of code enforcement, foreclosures. The city gets named in foreclosures a lot because we have code liens, or we might have utility liens, or things like that. So we handle all that under that aspect of it. 3112 is a budget for labor, employment, collective bargaining. Those things are budgeted under 3112. 3115 is for it's called land acquisition and title. That's real estate. If we're doing ground leases, or if there's a request, say from the building department, we've gotten a couple recently where they want an opinion of title, to know whether they can move forward with a unsafe structure case or something like that. That's where that is.
And those are sorry to interrupt, but those are expected costs. Those are, for instance, the labor item. Those are what you expect on any given year.
That's correct.
Because it's a regular set.
It's forecast based on history and whatnot. Of course, it can fluctuate, but that's that. We do our best to give you a figure that matches up with the experience that we've had in the office.
Okay.
And those are the main for fees that you see in there. The other things you see are expenses for the office and whatnot. And then, of course, Lynn is the only employee in the city employee in the city attorney's budget, and so that reflects the budget for Lynn in the office there.
Is that 1210?
Yes.
Okay.
So I talked with Mara, and she did confirm that she had sent you a spreadsheet that showed where other items in our budget are budgeted for our office. And if I could just go through it briefly, all the ones that are 1910 are the ones we just went through. They're in our general fund budget. There are two 1214, 001, 1214 litigation fees and costs and legal land acquisition and title. Those are for JKM Town Center. Those are budgeted. It's not what they spent. That's what's budgeted for that item. Do you need the spreadsheet?
Could you just hold one moment while everybody pulls it up?
Absolutely.
1 second. What's your question?
Okay. For 3110, does that include all the city commission meetings, or
The
are
retainer?
those additional?
No, all commission meetings, all workshops. The Saturday we were there, these 3
Okay.
days. But that's like the tip of the iceberg, because if you add up the hours, those what is that, 2 to 4 meetings a month. But we do P&D.
Mhm.
Whenever you see me in City Hall and I'm looking at contracts or we look at the agenda items, we review agenda items through legal. All of that's covered under the retainer. We look at procurement, we give comments on bids, we get contracts, we give comments on contracts, and so there's certain things that have to be in contracts. We make sure that they're in there. There's certain things we advise not to be in contracts. We make sure folks know that. That's all part of the retainer.
Mara, I'm just seeing the legal analysis, and then the tabs at the bottom just say fees, and then it has 5 years, and then it just says email from legal. So I'm not what he's talking about, where it actually is itemizing the.
Would it be helpful if we pulled this up on the computer so we can all see it? The spreadsheet. Would that be all right with you, Commissioner?
That's fine. I just.
Or just email it to him?
I wasn't emailed what you all were, so it'd be helpful
Okay.
to see that too.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can match up apples to apples.
It's hard to follow along when we can't all see it, so.
And yeah, I apologize for not having a PowerPoint.
Nope. You're fine. I went back and double checked. I didn't miss something in the email.
No. That's okay. That's this. Okay.
So Manny, if you go to the summary tab,
Oh, I don't know if I have the summary tab.
Great.
Let me see. Do I have that?
Click on different years, I guess. Sorry about that. Sorry, Mara.
All right, now that we have this on the screen, I'd like to ask Mara if you could just describe the columns so we can all follow along and understand the format.
sure. Manny, will you scroll up a little bit? All right, so column A just shows you the different fiscal years. Column C, you're looking at the original budget, and then E is the amended budget. G is the actuals for the year, and that's the sum of the three columns to the right. That's your Gorin Sheriff, the others, and the paralegal. So that's what that actual column is. And then the over under is the amount that exceeds the original budget to begin with. Below that, just some kind of breakdown of what the retainer is on a monthly basis over year, and then what we were paying for the attorney and the legal assistant per hour for each of those years as well.
All right, thank you, Mara. So from my understanding, again, the actual column is the sum of the three columns next to it, what we pay the firm and what is others.
So that is any outside counsel that we paid through the years.
So other contracted outside counsel, and then of course our one paralegal.
That would include the town square situation,
Correct.
That's an excellent question. So when we look at the actual numbers in that column, they are the combined, not just the retainer, but also all of these other expenses. And so let me just say that one of the things I learned today when I was reviewing the spreadsheet is, and I was wondering, why does it not match exactly what I'm seeing on the binder? Page 76, I believe. And it's because these numbers include the other legal related expenses that are actually recorded under different funds, for example, under risk management, as an example.
Correct.
So I just want to make sure I point that out. So if anyone's confused about that discrepancy as I was, that explains that difference.
Mayor, that was one of the reasons that I brought this up, is because when I went on to the transparency tab, even before our budget long ago, I found it one time where I could actually find where there were some additional attorney's fees, but then I could never find it again. And I feel like and I know it's not on purpose, but I just feel like instead of it, and I know that there's a reason that it's in the different places, but it's kind of hidden. And so I wanted to have it all in one place. So that's why I asked for this presentation, so that I could see and we could see everything in totality, instead of trying to figure out where it was in each of the columns. So I don't know if, so maybe just going forward for future years is to have some sort of presentation that just gives us an overview of what the attorney's fees are for the year in all of the different columns. This is helpful for us just to see, because it is in all different areas where it touches. So that was my main point of bringing this up for the board, was to know where they all are stored, and to see them all together.
And Commissioner, I'd be happy to work with finance and the city manager to redo how this is shown, either on the, not just on your presentations, but like you said, online or in the city's records. It should be, there's not a lot of different components. It's just in different places, and I can understand that concern, and happy to work with them and make sure that it's to your satisfaction. Anybody who wants to look at that expense.
Perfect. Thank you.
Commissioner Kelly, thank you for bringing that up and helping provide clarity.
Absolutely.
I'd like to ask Mara if we could take a look at at least one of the tabs. Let's just go with, it really doesn't matter, just as an example of what those different funds are that these legal expenses can be found in. So if anybody else wanted to look it up, they would know where to look.
Right. So if you look at, this is 2022, for example, and it's the same breakdown as on the summary tab, the original budget.
One second. Monty, would you mind expanding column F so we can see those numbers? Yes. There we go. Excellent. Go ahead, Mara. Thank you.
So it's the same format as on the summary tab. You have the original budget, the amended budget, the actual, and then costs paid to Gorin Sheriff's firm, and then any other outside counsel. If you'll notice, typically we do try to divide the cost by fund. Town Square was a significant expense, so it was broken out into its own division. You'll see those. That's the first two lines, 001, 12, 14. Those are Town Square. And then, as Mr. Cirillo mentioned, the 1910, those are on page 76 of the budget in the city attorney's budget itself. Line 15, Fund 103, 2110, that's your red light traffic safety fund. So that is any litigation related to red light cameras and things like that. 112, which is the next line down, is your ARPA fund. We did have a few questions this year as it being a new initiative we were taking on that legal assisted with as well. The next lines down that's your self-insurance or risk fund. So there's a lot that comes out of that. You'll see that's a significant portion of the budget, and that's about a 50-50 split between Gorin and some of the other firms that we use as outside counsel.
Wait a minute. So on 522, can we expand it to see that number, or is it just a
I don't think
dash?
there is a number
Because there's
on
no
that
number.
first line.
For which?
Like the one that's highlighted right now. There's
Yeah, there was no budget for that year in that. In previous
Oh.
years, you'll see it that you had something in 3111. In this particular year, you didn't.
Okay.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. And then there again, you'll see the same account numbers we were just talking about. That's your traffic safety or red light. The next two are your risk or self-insurance fund.
Are the legal fees from the red light, do they come from any income from that purpose? I would assume that it does, right?
They are, yeah, they're supported by the tickets that are paid. So actually, that's why that expense comes out of that. You see the income coming in from the red light tickets, and then the expense also comes.
Mm.
And if I could just understand the work with the red light cameras, obviously, if you get a ticket, you get a chance to go to the magistrate here at the city, and we don't typically go to those hearings. If you don't pay that, you get issued a UTC, a regular traffic citation, and that goes to court. We typically haven't gone to those hearings in a while unless there's an issue, which there was recently with the judge not understanding some of the evidentiary issues. Several years ago, a few of these judges were questioning the evidence that it comes from cameras, and they wanted to know how it can come in, how these images can come in without having the person who actually installed the camera can verify things about the camera. So there's a process where you file what's called business records. And for each of those cases, we have to file the information from the vendor and the pictures and the video under that portion. So we prepare those for each of the cases, and they get filed and uploaded with the traffic clerk, so that when the judges hear these cases, they have them to consider during this. So we get maybe one or two appeals a year, typically pro se. They didn't like the fact that they were found guilty or whatever. So the litigation is really just the support for the police department to make sure that the information that they need at court gets in the court file. So I don't want you to think you're getting sued when you see that figure up there. You're getting constantly sued about the red light cameras. It's just basically the legal assistance to the police department.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, there's the risk budget. Julie can explain that, but our firm represents the city primarily in the risk cases, the slip and falls or constitutional violations, et cetera. But there are some cases where there's outside counsel needed, particularly if there's other defendants involved. And so, out of that budget, other law firms are, brought in to represent, say, city employees or whatnot in those cases where the city is either a defendant or not a defendant. in that case.
And in the past, those law firms have been chosen by you guys, right?
I believe that they're chosen through risk. I
Risk.
can have Julie explain how the firms are selected, but we're familiar with the firms and work well with those firms. We have no problem with the firms.
Julie, in addition to that, could you discuss also, what kind of cases you're seeing with risk?
Sure. So the firms we've been using, Robert Reynolds and also Johnson Anselmo. We've been using them. Let me back up and give you a little bit of history. About, I want to say maybe 6 or 7 years ago. It might be even longer than that. Time just keeps going faster. But when I took over risk management, the Gorin Sheriff firm helped to assist us in the risk litigation side, and we brought a lot of that in-house using Gorin Sheriff and reduced our reliance on the outside counsel. We've created a great partnership in working with them. They've really helped us on developing some great processes and procedures to help us be more effective at managing these claims and even being able to settle them or resolve them, subrogate, things of that nature. So when that happened, that's when these the 522 accounts that you're seeing for the other professional services and legal fees, we added about, I want to say we started at about 500,000 to add, to segment that out into the risk budget just to allocate for those expenses. So then we use the outside firms for situations. For example, if there's a case involving like a police practices case, law enforcement liability case, any officer that's being sued has to have a separate defense. So we cannot just give each officer the same attorney. So we have to have a multitude of counsel that we can. For example, we had one case at one point that involved about 8 officers. So we had to retain 8 separate legal firms. So that's why we have the reliance on the outside counsel in that respect. And as far as allocating them out, it's kind of like we would do a one-time case come in, we would give it to one firm. Another case came in, we would give it to another firm. So it was just that. But their rates, their hourly rates are consistent with what the city attorney's hourly rates are. So we've negotiated that. So we don't charge above, I'm sorry, those outside firms don't charge above those established rates.
How is that selected? Is it on a rotational basis?
Rotational.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, because I thought what I had heard was that it was recommended by the city attorney. I think that's what I may have heard in the past, but that's fine. I think that the main question comes from, I mean, it is about, seems like actual $437,000 for risk management specifically.
Yes, in that line item in the 3111.
And usually
yes.
That's like litigation.
Correct.
Mainly.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't bring my printed copies, so I'm not checking my emails. I'm just looking at what how I break down the different funds in that. So the property and liability legal fees 3111. In there we put legal fees and expenses only. Okay, and then in the 3190 professional services, that one is legal expenses related to taking depositions, attending mediations, court reporting, expert witnesses, any investigations that go along to that. So there's some pieces of that. And I think when finance did this analysis, when Corinne took the information, I think she kind of went through and pulled the things that were specifically involving an attorney to assist with those versus some of these others that are they're legal services, but they don't necessarily involve always an attorney.
Okay.
And then did you want me to just tell you what I have budgeted in each of those for?
Can we go to 2022? Is that what you were going to go over? Because that's.
Yeah, I was just going to tell you what the amounts are in each of those if you were interested in knowing that.
Could it be the 2023 tab? Is that the proposed budget?
Yes.
Larger.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
wanted to see if the risk management went up or stayed the same in 2022.
Okay, so the property and liability 31. Let's see, the 3111 stayed the same at 665,000, and the 3190 professional services also remained the same, and that was at 150,000.
But it's not together.
Can we go back to 2022? I just wanted to see where we were at in 2022 for the risk management portion of it. So we don't have anything at all budgeted.
So next line down,
That's the next.
665,000, that's also risk management.
660.
Yeah.
But that's other professional services, and the one above is legal fees, and there's nothing on there. Does that make sense, or am I missing something?
Correct. It's just that you don't have any legal fees in the 3111 line item as it currently when this analysis was done for 20.
Do you have any questions?
Oh, it is.
No, I mean, not right now. I am reviewing the numbers. So if there's anybody else that have any questions or comments, I bring them up
Vice
now.
Mayor,
Yes.
I apologize.
No, go
That
ahead.
665,000 actually should be up a line. It is 3111.
Okay, I was very confused about
Yeah.
that.
You just pointed that out to me.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, thanks. Because I'm thinking legal services and not other, and we're talking about legal services. Okay. And when these use the legal services for litigation within risk management,
Like,
Your microphone.
Microphone. There we go.
okay, there you go. When we use the attorneys for litigation purposes for risk management, you mentioned that it had something to do with police officers?
Not always, but primarily. If, when we have cases involving police officers, we're required to provide separate legal representation to each named officer.
Does that ever come from any portion of the police budget, or is it just a separate?
No, we risk absorbs all of
All of
that. Yes.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Thank you.
And my question is for either Julie or Mara. I have not done the long-term analysis of the trends, but have any of these numbers been spiking in terms of increases or decreases, or what are the trends that you're seeing?
I don't know that we've done a trend analysis aside from what you're looking at here from the summary. You'll notice 2019 was a higher year than 2020. 20 was a fairly low year as far as costs go, and even 21 a little bit lower, 22. So beyond that, I have not done a trend analysis.
That's okay. We can always circle back at another time. On those years that there were reductions, what can we attribute those reductions to? Or you could look at it the other way around when there were what appears to be increases. What are the causes of these fluctuations?
I would say 2020, I mean, and 21, I think a lot of the courts were closed and things like that. So I think you saw the reduction because of COVID. I think we're coming back into what would be a typical year of costs for legal fees and things like that. So we're coming back to where you see 2019 really.
Okay, and I see it's 510 for 22. Year not yet complete, of course. And is that projected to be under as the previous years, or what is it looking like? Do we know?
I mean, the budget right now, you're looking at 1.5. If, you know, the actuals are 704,000, I think they're right on target to meet what the budget is for the year.
Okay. I mean, I understand the breakdown and how these things have been calculated. What I do not know, and this is kind of the big picture question, is are these numbers on par with other cities of our size? That I have no clue. And I need to, in order for me to say something is too small or too large, well, it's relative to what? So I'm interested in some sort of comparison to assess, are we on track with our relatives, if you will, neighboring municipalities? So that's one question. And the other question would be metrics. How do we know? I guess this is a question for our city attorney, but what are the metrics that we look at to say, hey, we're doing, in terms of our legal services, we're performing well this year, or we have room for improvement? What do you look for in these questions, and or do we even do that?
I think it's hard for me to say how you evaluate other than good legal services and bad legal services, when you see it, kind of thing. If we're missing things, if there's problems created, if we're not able to help the city avoid problems, a lot of what we do is proactive to try to avoid situations from occurring. I think that's a good metrics. The amount of work that we do. I mean, I know you saw ordinances and resolutions, but that's a function of the business of the city, and we're just responding to that. So if you guys decide you're not going to adopt any ordinances, then that would affect the number of ordinances. So I don't know if that's a good metric to go with. I'm happy to work with HR or something to develop something for our work to be reviewed, or tasks to be monitored if that's what the commission wants. But I don't have a checklist per se. I just know from my experience dealing with several cities, it's, if you get the heated phone call, you've got to make sure that you've addressed that issue.
Right. No, I asked that because I think it's good for administrative, for example. At the administrative level, we should have key performance indicators to look at to see where we are today and where we want to go, and doing a little bit of progress monitoring. But on top of that, we evaluate, the city manager. We evaluate the executive director of the CRA. But I'm not certain we're doing any sort of evaluation of the city attorney's office. And so I want to make sure that if we do it for them, I don't see any reason why we would not do it for the other, right? And I think that's the only fair thing to do, and also to ensure that we're getting the best services and that we're kept aware of the progress. All right, so that'll be my questions for now. Anything else from my colleagues? Commissioner Turkin, you haven't said anything else? Commissioner Hay.
No, I'm good. I'm satisfied with the fees and the services that we're getting from legal.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, we're going to thank you to both of you and Mara as well. We're going to proceed now to public comments. And if you would like to speak, as always, you have 3 minutes per person. We're going to begin with in-person public comments, then we're going to go virtual. If you would like to speak and you are online, please make sure to keep your digital hands raised. And we will let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining on the clock so you can pace yourselves online. Okay, so now's the time to please approach the podium. And again, all the usual rules of decorum and civility apply. And begin when you are ready.
Hi, Ernest McNulty, 710 Northeast 7th Street, condo 407, Boynton Beach, Florida 33435. I'm a little tired because I was up after I left the meeting last night recording unthinkable crime and corruption and things that involve, believe it or not, the city attorney, because when we make a complaint that the police aren't patrolling, well, then the complaint, and you CC the city attorney, and they don't respond. So here's the thing. I think what would be helpful for the commission is to look at the track record of your present law firm and to see how many lawsuits, also against them, by the way, and ethics complaints. You got new ones that just started. I mean, they're coming through the roof. Everybody's filing them. So when the other guy leaves, what do? You put his partner in. Look at the building. And where are all the settlements? Where's the one where you ripped the lady's face off? What was that, 100,000? And then the detective in the bar, right, that they cover up? What, 18-year police detective in a Miami bar with cocaine, right? Gets fired. How much money? And then you pay with these increased salaries and overtime, their PBA, so they get representation where lawyers, law firms like the one for Boynton Beach are very connected, especially in Fort Lauderdale, the area where they come from. And you start to notice, well, wait a minute, why does a lot of the police chiefs come from Fort Lauderdale, and the new assistant chief is from Fort Lauderdale, and the law firm is from Fort Lauderdale? Like I'm the only one here not from Fort Lauderdale. You know what I'm saying? And then you find out that you know the city's settlements are just gross. And the reason that the settlements are so frequent is because when you don't settle, you have to go to court. And then people have to come in under oath and testify. And this city's position for the last 10 years with legal fees has been, we don't want to go to court. We don't want anybody under oath and have to testify, especially the lawyers, because anybody who's accused of anything unethical or anything has to testify in a trial. And Boynton Beach is dedicated. I'm studying it. I'm studying thousands of cases. Is dedicated with the PBA, your fire department with their lawsuits, the city department with their lawsuits, to settle, to drag it on, not cooperate. Even Benjamin Crump's complaining now that the city law won't give him information, is dragging everything out. The chief won't follow the guidelines. Where did you ever see a city lawyer firm represent us in the case of Stanley Davis III, right? Where we don't get any information every day.
All right, your time is expired. Thank you very much. Your 3 minutes is up.
Did you like my?
We're gonna move on.
Did you like?
We're gonna move on to the next speaker. Are there any other in-person public comment speakers? Seeing none, we're now gonna go virtual. Do we have anybody online?
We have considered no, there is nobody else in line.
All right, seeing that there are no other virtual or in-person public speakers, public comments are now closed. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask for any final questions or comments from my colleagues, because otherwise we are concluded.
I just want to thank everybody for the last 3 days for showing up, especially department heads showing up after your presentation. You guys are still here. I know we've asked a lot of tough questions, put a lot of pressure on y'all, but there's the old saying, pressure makes diamonds, right? And I think with new leadership, these department heads, city staff, and this commission, we're going to be a city that creates diamonds, and I'm looking forward to that. So thank you all for your patience, and thank you all for handling the pressure.
Anything else from my colleagues? Hearing none, I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, and have a great